So I went through all of that, grief, jealousy. My friend got pregnant and I was like green with envy. I remember once I had my period and I had definitely thought I was pregnant, and I was just devastated, like sobbing on the couch, so upset, because it's not just about like the baby, it's so much more than that. It's like your future family. Does this mean you won't have grandkids come someday? Like there's just so much emotion and future and Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. Today we are doing another Dear Mrs. Midwest advice segment. So you guys send in your life issues and questions and whatever your, queries to me, and I do my best on the fly to give you my advice. I have not pre-planned these answers, and I am sorry for taking so long in this series. It has been a minute. The kids have kept me busy, but I have chosen some emails to answer today. So hopefully some of you will find this advice helpful, and if you have different advice for our lovely sisters, leave yours in the comments below. Let's dive right in. The first one. Hi Caitlin, I have enjoyed watching your videos for several years. Although I know that you are not by any means in the same situation as me, perhaps you would have some advice or encouragement. I feel that I'm at the end of my rope. Oh my. My husband and I were together for 4 years before tying the knot. During our dating engagement, we were in agreement about wanting children someday. However, he threw me the biggest loop and heartbreak when a few months into marriage, he said that he wasn't sure he wanted kids anymore. Ooh. We've been married for about 2.5 years and it hasn't changed. He doesn't really have any concrete reasons that I can address or help with for not wanting kids. It's all stuff like fear of the unknown. It absolutely breaks my heart because there is nothing I've wanted more in life than to be a mother. I got married to him with the expectation of having a family together, and now the ball is totally in his court. Couple that with the fact that all of my close friends are either mothers or becoming mothers, and it is becoming impossible to bear. There's more in the email, but that's kind of the main question, and these emails are often very long, so I'm just going to answer right now. And first of all, I'll say my sympathies. I am so sorry that you are going through this. I feel like this is the worst like bait and switch someone can pull when you get married, because I've talked about this in my relationship videos, but there's 3 areas you should think about when you're in a long-term relationship, and that is compatibility of your future goals, your current beliefs and values, and your physical attraction. And so the fact that you thought you were compatible with your future goals and then it turned out, like I said, to be a bait and switch, I'm so sorry, but I know that a lot of people struggle with this. And one thing I will say is sometimes these things do change with time as well as the environment you're around. She does say at the end of her email that a lot of her friends have kids. So I've noticed that sometimes husbands, as they get more used to being around little kids and they see the joy that sometimes their buddies have becoming fathers, that can kind of influence their desire to have kids. But I will say my biggest advice comes from this book that I've talked about nonstop over the last few months, and it's from the Empowered Wife podcast. She had an episode titled how to get your husband, essentially it was like how to get your husband to let you have another baby, but it's essentially approaching the situation from a positive light and not putting pressure on your husband, but more focusing on yourself and basically how happy you would be to have a baby. And I was a little bit in your situation, not where my husband went back on his word or anything, but I was ready to start a family a little bit sooner than he was. He was not sure. And so the way I presented it is the way I would encourage you to present it, and that is by being straightforward but not being naggy about it. And I'm not saying you have been at all. Like, it sounds like you've been waiting for this, but I would just go to your husband. This is what I did. I went to my husband. It was actually on my birthday. And I said, I would be so happy if in a year from now I was pregnant. And I just kind of left it at that. I was just like, this would make me so happy. I didn't like put any ultimatums on it other than like, just, this is my dream, this is my desire. And the book I like really ascribe to in marriage basically it talks about stating your desires without expectation. And so I'm sure your husband knows how much you want to have a baby. And I'm sure the instinct is to go about it in a very in a method that's focusing on what joy he'll get out of being a father or how he can benefit, to try to convince him. But I've learned in marriage as a wife, the way that you can kind of influence your husband, I don't want to say manipulate, because that's not really what it is, but it's the way that you can communicate with him this severe desire is by keeping it positive and just telling him how happy you would be if you were able to become a mother. And then my second piece of advice is to just get happy in general and work on your marriage in general. Because when you describe feeling like you're in a fog and that you're heartbroken, and that's why I give you my condolences and sympathy. But it's important right now to reflect on the fact that you as a married couple, you are a family. And I think sometimes husbands can kind of feel a little like, am I not enough for you? You need a baby too. It's important for him to know that you're happy in your marriage just to him, and that your life together makes you happy. And it's important to find that joy as a couple before starting your family. Even if your husband wants kids, it's important to foster your relationship. So I would work on finding joy together as a couple and also as an individual. Get hobbies, because if this isn't happening for you right now, dwelling on it and soaking in the fact that you can't have children right now is just going to make the vibe in your marriage worse, because it'll make it feel like he's this person that's withholding from you and you're resentful of him. And so address that resentment and learn to just kind of focus on some other things and have joy. And it seems like so backwards, but a happy wife begets more happiness in her marriage, because for whatever reason, men, when they see you thriving and happy, they want to continue to make you happy. And so I really encourage you to focus on your relationship with your husband, the things you have in common, the things you love about him, make memories together, and really strengthen that relationship. Because part of him now at this point, maybe he's feeling like, my wife is so sad and our relationship is so tense, why would we bring a baby into this situation? And so I would really encourage you to just take off the pressure from yourself and him. Focus on the happy side of things. And if anybody else has advice on how they got their husband to want children, leave your advice in the comments below. But my advice is always, for this type of stuff, to approach it from a perspective of you. And then in the other areas of your life, focus on getting happy. And that may influence his perspective. All right. Hi, Caitlin. I love your blog and YouTube channel, etc., etc. I'd love if you could give me advice on how to be more affectionate and sweet towards my man. I'm historically not been cuddly or affectionate. I'm not a fan of PDA. I don't feel inclined to hold hands, etc. Early in our relationship with my fiance, I told him I don't like physical touch, and he's respected that and has avoided it to make me happy. Now that we've been dating for a couple years, I kind of want to shift and try to express my affection more towards him, but I don't know how to condition it in our relationship, as this is now the norm. When I've asked, how come you don't try to be affectionate or hold my hand, he says, you said you don't like it, so now it's kind of natural for me to not even think to do that. I feel bad, I don't know how to turn it around, and I don't want to just jump into full-on PDA or affection or make it seem forced. I'd like it to come on naturally and gradually. Do you have any insight on how I could work up to this or rebuild a level of comfort in expressing physical affection? Yes, I do. I have advice for this. So, first of all, don't bring up this topic with him ever again. Don't ask him why he doesn't hold your hand. Don't bug him about it. Don't ask him you should hold my hand, blah, blah, blah. Don't put any pressure on him, because he actually took what you wanted for a few years now, and he's done what you wanted, and that's kind of how he does life. Hi, Bodie! That's how he does life now. So, the great thing is this is very easy to fix, and it won't take long. All you got to do is not talk about it. Don't talk about this ever. But just start holding his hand. So when you drive together places, reach over and hold his hand. And he's going to look at you like this is a little weird. He's going to look at you like that probably a couple times, but then he'll get used to it. And don't acknowledge that it's different, and don't acknowledge that it's weird. This might sound like I'm encouraging you to gaslight him, but I'm not. It's just, if you want things to stick, don't draw attention to how different and crazy and weird it is that you're being different. And if you don't want PDA, do this stuff in private. So I'm sure you drive places together. I'm sure you cook in the kitchen together. I'm sure that you cuddle on the couch watching a movie together, or sit on the couch watching a movie together. Turn it into cuddling together. And then when you're out in public, start around strangers, hold his hand as you're walking through the grocery store, or tap him on the shoulders. Essentially, you're going to have to break down this physical barrier first, and then he will start most likely mirroring your behavior. My second piece of advice is whenever he does touch you in an affectionate way, in the way that you're desiring to like break these boundaries, as you said, give him verbal affirmation. So say he reaches over to like pat you on the shoulder, don't ignore it. Don't just like keep doing your thing. Turn, look him in the eyes, and give him a really warm smile and like be sweet and cute and flirty. Because he loves that. I swear. I don't even know the guy, but I already know that that's what he loves. That's what all men love when their girls do. So anytime he like reaches and holds your hands or starts to touch you, especially as he starts mirroring your change of behavior, give him verbal affirmation or a visual affirmation of how happy you are. Because like I told the first girl, and this is what I've learned from that marriage book, men like their women happy and they want to continue that happiness. So when he sees how happy you are when he touches you and how happy you are when you touch him, he's going to like get with the program really, really fast. And you can absolutely change the culture of this in your marriage. I'm happy you want to change the culture of this in your marriage. It's so good to be warm with each other and physically affectionate, and that pours into other areas of your life. So I'm glad you want to change this. So do those two things. Break it on your side. Don't draw attention to it. Just start doing it. Just start holding his hand. Just start like patting him on the shoulder or whatever. And then number 2, anytime that he shows you physical affection, give him that cute little smile that I know you have, because I can see in your cute little profile picture that you're very pretty. All right. All right. This is number 3 is a mother-in-law kind of drama. So, hello. I hope you and your family are well, etc., etc. I had a question for you in regards to my mother-in-law. I love her dearly and get along pretty well. She is heavier set while I am borderline underweight. She frequently makes comments about my lesser weight, and it has come to the point where it's starting to really hurt my feelings. The latest thing she did that almost made me tear up was say that my 5-month-old niece would prefer to be cuddled by a thicker woman, not someone so thin as myself. She did say this joking around, but it really hurt my feelings because I feel like it was an attack on my femininity and potential future motherhood. I try to make my fake smile obvious, but she doesn't really seem to get it. Any tips on how to be gracious with confronting her, or maybe you would suggest not confronting her? Thank you for your time, Anonymous. Ooh, this is so tough. So mother-in-law relationships are tough because it's not a stranger, but it's not your mom. And so you have these like long-term dynamics to navigate because this lady's going to be around a long time. So I definitely don't recommend like burning it all down and being really angry when this happens. But this is also not okay that she's doing this. It's making you feel uncomfortable and sad. And so my advice would be to tell your your husband, and make him deal with this. I know a lot of husbands like to like stay out of female drama, but I would just bring this up with your husband and say, hey, this makes me feel really terrible about myself. Can you, next time your mom says something like that, stand up for me? Can you tell her no? Can you maybe say something, because I feel uncomfortable standing up to her because it's not my mom. You could start with that. Number 2, if he's not around when she says these comments, that's also kind of a red flag because it kind of shows that she knows it's not okay. She's trying to do it like when her son's not around. So I would say he could also talk to her and say, hey, my wife has mentioned that this makes her feel really sad and hurt by you. Can you please stop talking about her weight, blah, blah, blah. That's the second option. Third option, if you want to confront her, you absolutely are allowed to. This behavior and stuff is so inappropriate. Clearly it comes from a place of insecurity. She's trying to put you down because I think she must feel uncomfortable with her weight. I'm not saying that because you described her as heavy set. I'm saying it based on her behavior, because people who feel the need to put other people down for a trait that they don't possess usually feel insecure. But that's not an excuse for her to make you feel bad at all. So if you do want to confront her, next time she makes a comment about your weight, you can just simply say, mother-in-law, that really hurts my feelings, and I'd prefer if you don't talk about my body. That's all you have to say. Mother-in-law, please don't talk about my body in that way. It makes me feel uncomfortable. You don't even have to say that you're hurt. You don't have to bring it into the dramatics. You could if you want to, but just using the word uncomfortable can communicate that as well. And if she doesn't stop, maybe you can just leave the room when she starts talking about your body, or leave the conversation. I know people can be really backhanded, and these dynamics are so uncomfortable, but just know too, if she just keeps continuing, you don't have to subject yourself to this situation. And so if she's purposely trying to make you feel bad and trying to hurt your feelings, even after you've told her, hey, that makes me uncomfortable, that hurts my feelings, you can limit your time that you spend around her. You can limit the situations that you spend around her. You don't have to be passive, and it's good to like kind of grow a backbone in a sense and stand up for yourself. She might be dramatic about it. She might like turn it into a whole thing. So if you do confront her about this, just be aware that like she might not take it very well, which is why my first piece of advice is probably to go through your husband. But in general, don't let this like bother you about your potential for future motherhood. She is out of line. It's not true. Also, you said that you tried to make your fake smile obvious, but she doesn't seem to get it. You know, if someone gave me a fake smile after I said a comment, I would totally notice, because like I'm very tuned in to social interactions, and some people aren't. So there is the possibility that she just doesn't realize that what she's saying is hurtful, because maybe in her mind she wishes she looked like you, and so there's no way it could be insulting. But it is insulting, and I don't think the fake smile is cutting it. So you might want to say, please don't talk about my body like that. It makes me uncomfortable. Because that's going to probably make the social interaction uncomfortable, and it's going to like sear that memory into her, and she's going to realize like, I don't want to be in that situation again. So anybody in the comments experienced this before? Leave your advice below. I definitely think if it's to the point where it's making it really uncomfortable to be around her, like you should say something, or your husband should say something. But if that's not possible, I would just like leave the conversation and go like occupy myself with family members who don't make me feel terrible about myself. All right. Okay. Dear Caitlin, Mrs. Midwest, hello, blah, 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 baby Troy, Bodie. Okay, the question I have for you can be a sensitive topic, so please feel free to not respond if it all makes you uncomfortable. Oh. My question for you is, how did you and husband handle the mental and emotional aspects of trying to conceive a child? I know that you tried for a little over a year to get pregnant with Bodie, and I would love any tips or tricks to handle this difficult chapter. For a little background, we've been trying to conceive for over a year and a half. We thankfully received some answers with infertility and are currently going through treatments. I'm 30 years old, work part-time as a labor and delivery nurse, and I'm at the stage of life where everyone I know is expecting in the postpartum period or having children already. All I've ever wanted to be is a wife and a mother and a homemaker, and I feel so unsure of what God is calling me to be in this stage of life. Then she just kind of goes on even more, talking about it's hard not to feel grief, sadness, isolation, and even jealousy regarding pregnancies. I've cut down my hours at work since being around pregnant ladies is emotional. Do you have any advice for how to navigate this chapter that feels never ending? Sending a warm hug from Texas. Thank you for the hug. Yes, I do have advice. This took me a full year to deal with. So I went through all of that. Grief, jealousy, like all of it. Like my friend got pregnant and I was like green with envy. And the pain, the grief, you know. I remember once I had my period and I had definitely thought I was pregnant, and I was just devastated, like sobbing on the couch, so upset, because it's not just about like the baby. It's so much more than that. It's like your future family, does this mean you won't have grandkids come someday? Like there's just so much emotion and future and your identity, and it's all wrapped up into that. So I absolutely relate to this. I'm so sorry you're going through this. And to anyone experiencing infertility right now, my deepest condolences. It is something that I wish no one had to experience. It's so hard. So my advice for you is that infertility can be very consuming, especially when you said you're going through treatments. And so something that I did, because you specifically asked for what I did, so I don't know if this is what you want to do, but this is what I did. I cut down any infertility content completely. So I like anything on my Instagram homepage that had to do with infertility, I blocked it. Anything on YouTube that had to do with infertility, I just blocked it because it's so emotional and intense in my personal life. I felt like, oh, if I connect with other people or their stories online, it'll give me peace. But really it just aggravated the pain because I was feeling their pain so deeply and my pain. And I realized too, by surrounding myself with content about infertility and children and all of that, I was turning pregnancy into an idol. I don't know if you're a Christian, but that was a huge thing for me, was realizing that I was kind of worshiping, in a sense, the concept of being pregnant and being a mother. And I wanted it more than anything. And I thought about it all the time, and I was hanging up my identity on it. And it was sucking my happiness away to think of being a childless wife. And so I had to do a lot of personal inner work to accept the reality that I might not be a mother someday, and we might be the childless couple, or the couple that I had to adopt someday. And that was very difficult, but I achieved that by, first of all, gratitude. So being grateful for the things I did have, for being married, for being in a happy marriage, for the house I had, or simple things like being grateful for the clothes or my YouTube channel or homemaking activities, my dog. And every day I would write down things I was grateful for. And then I would focus on other things, focus on, like, that year that I was struggling with infertility, like, that was the year of biggest growth on YouTube. I threw myself into YouTube because it was something that had nothing to do with my pregnancy journey. And it was just really, like, not just a distraction, but also to remind myself there's other things out there than just, like, becoming a mother, no matter how desperately you want that. And it's a good thing to want to be a mother. But I've really seen infertility just totally destroy people's, like, emotional health, mental health, marriages, families. And I think that can happen when we wallow too much in the darkness of it. I think also, having experienced loss in the past through the form of family estrangement, and my life just completely going in a direction I did not expect and I had no control over, and, you know, seeing all these beautiful photos on Pinterest of happy families at their weddings, and just seeing all my friends, you know, with their father-daughter dance at their wedding, or their mother throwing them like a bridal shower. I didn't get that. And I felt a lot of bitterness and grief and pain about it. But then eventually I realized, you're not promised in life. You're not promised. This is really hard to accept, but, you know, you're not promised that you'll be a mother. You're not even promised that you'll be a wife. You're not promised that you'll have your parents forever. And I had to learn that through my family estrangement situation. So when I was experiencing infertility for a time, I was able to apply those principles, not to kind of like beat myself down or be like, your problems don't matter, but just to simply acknowledge that we're not promised anything in life. And so I should be grateful for the things I have been given. And I know that's hard, but that's how I overcame it, was realizing I'm not promised a child. I'm not promised the identity of mother, and I can find joy even if those things never happen, because I was able to find joy even though my life essentially exploded with my family situation, you know, and this is it's a very difficult thing to overcome, but it's also, you know, it's really hard when, instead of feeling joy for our friends when they get pregnant, we're just like jealous and comparing ourselves. And I know how painful it can be, and I know it can feel like, oh, how did those people have a baby? Like, they're not even a couple. Like, me and my husband, we deserve a baby more. You know, I know your mind can kind of go there, but it's simply not true. And it's also not true that just because someone else has a baby that there's one less baby for you. Like, it doesn't work like that. And we should be joyful and grateful for a new life, and just realize that I had to accept that there was a possibility I would never be a mother. And I had to make a choice. Do I want the next 10 years to be filled with darkness about that situation? Or do I want to still be able to find the joy and enjoy my life and live my life despite that pain? So that I can look back on these 10 years and find joy. And I know this might be difficult, you know, hearing this from a person who is a mother, but at the time I truly was unsure if I would ever have children. We tried for a while. And so, My biggest encouragement is just to cut yourself off from infertility content, because it can be very dark, and I feel like it can kind of allow you to wallow in the darkness. Don't make pregnancy an idol by, acknowledging that it is beautiful and it's wonderful, but when it consumes your life, you're serving that dream instead of your dreams serving you. And then finally, becoming grateful and realizing that we're not promised anything in this life. And I know that might seem kind of like harsh advice, but the harsh advice is how I was able to overcome the darkness and still enjoy my life despite infertility. So that's my advice for that. All right. Okay. Hi, Caitlin. Congratulations on the birth of your second baby, etc. I'm getting married next week, and my partner and I are moving to a different state. I'm going to begin the housewife journey. I know you mentioned in one of your videos that you moved to a different town where you didn't know anyone, and I was wondering if you could give us some answers or make a video on how to adjust to living in a new place and making friends. I am going to make a whole video on how I made friends as an adult, but my quick tips are to first make friends through your husband. Your husband has coworkers, because if you're a housewife, you don't have coworkers, and coworkers are a great source of like meeting people in your community. So make friends with your husband's coworkers, wives, girlfriends, etc. So whenever there's a function at work, you gotta go, even if it's not fun. Try to get their phone numbers, try to follow people online, Facebook friendships. Reach out a lot. Like, reach out, set up a coffee date. I've learned that you can have an hour-and-a-half coffee date with like almost anybody. As long as they can keep up a conversation, you'll be fine. So set up coffee dates, set up walking with friends in town is like a great way to spend time with people in like a non-intense way. Thirdly, try to host things at your house for, again, your husband's coworkers. If your husband makes friends or if you make friends, host people at your house. That's a great way to kind of fast track friendships. And then finally, anytime you're out in public and you kind of meet someone who seems to be your age and your vibe, go out of your way and strike up a conversation, and try to like make some sort of communication thread. I actually followed I had a labor and delivery nurse after I delivered Troy, who I just got along with her so well. And so we started talking and we exchanged Instagram, and we kind of became a little bit of friends through that. And so I really encourage you, anytime that you kind of click with somebody, to just try to make a friendship there. It gets a lot easier when you have kids, because you can do play dates and stuff, but it takes a lot of effort and time. And so most importantly, be patient with the situation. I spent a lot of time on my YouTube journey, so I didn't focus on friendships for a bit, but when I really buckled down and tried to work on friendships and connecting with people, it got a lot easier. So I'll make a whole video, but those are my fast 5 tips. Okay, I'm losing my voice, so this will be the last one. Come on. All right. Hi, Mrs. Midwest. I hope you're having a lovely week, etc. My career goal since I was little was to become a wife and mom. I wanted to ask your advice on practical ways to live in the present with joy and patience in the waiting time before God brings us a husband and family someday. I've been trying to be diligent in cultivating homemaking skills, femininity, character, be prepared for the future, etc. What are the ways you've learned to walk with grace during the waiting times of your life? This applies to the infertility question as well, but it's a little bit different in the sense. Well, first of all, I would say make sure, with the infertility, it doesn't become an idol. So you're not just depressed and moping around, waiting. Because you have to enjoy life now before these things come, because we don't know when they'll happen, So definitely try to foster gratitude in your life and enjoy life. And I would really say do now what you will not be able to do when you are a wife and a mother. So for example, if you have a vacation opportunity or a study abroad opportunity, any kind of trip, do it now. I could not go on a study abroad right now because I'm a married wife and mother. Try to do those kind of things now that you won't be able to do later. Enjoy the mani-pedis, enjoy going shopping when you're able to. Enjoy the singles group at church or going to the beach with your girlfriends, whatever. Try to build up your single life so that it's very fruitful and fun. I would also say just live the life that you want to in the future, live it now. And so if you want to be a great you're already doing it, if you want to be a great wife and mother, knowing all these recipes and organizing and enjoying little kids, maybe pick up some babysitting jobs, maybe, learn some new recipes, kind of indulge in those things that you're interested in and build those skills for later on in life. But essentially, it's so important to live in the present and live in the now, while also working towards those goals. So in order to become a wife and a mother and a homemaker, you need a husband. So work on your external beauty as well as your character. Try to make a lot of friends to open up more dating opportunities. Try to work on your style and enhance your personal beauty, and also up your game when it comes to flirting and making conversation with men. It doesn't say here if you're dating or not. So really try to work on that aspect of your life. So important to work on connecting with men and opening up dating opportunities. And so try to be really social, make a lot of friends, and put yourself out there into new situations so that you can meet more people and hopefully snag that boyfriend. But that is all I have for you guys today. I have to go be a mother now. My voice is gone. I appreciate the time we had together. If you're interested in more of this kind of content, I have some Q&As and one other Ask Mrs. Midwest advice video. Please continue to send your scenarios. Don't be shy too. If you want to send like a really specific advice question, like this situation happened with me and my roommate when we were moving out, what should I do? Send those questions too. They're so interesting. But in general, I hope you guys have a wonderfully blessed and wise week, my beautiful sister.